Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Karen, and in this video I'm going to be talking about books before Booktube. So the books of my past, pretty much from the age of like tweens to teens. And yeah, let's get on with the book. So I'm wearing a jumper right now because my house is really cold. Hurricane Irma passed by my town and left me without AC for like a week. Now I am wearing jumpers around the house because I just need the cold. Simon from Savage Reads is saying something really funny in all of his videos. He's talking about the jumper games that all of the booktubers are taking part on because the fall season is finally here. I'm from Florida, so the jumper games for us is literally like who can wear a jumper for the longest without passing out. So the first book of my past that I want to show you guys is called Neon Angel, A Memoir of a Runaway by Cherie Currie. This book means so much to me. I have a story to tell you about this book. I lied to my dad and I made him drive me 45 minutes to the only bookstore near me, somewhat near me, that had this book, and I lied to him and I made him pay 20 bucks for it, and I said that I needed it for a school project. When I was 15 or 16, I was really obsessed. I don't think obsessed is a word, I think in love is a word, with Kristen Stewart. And she was playing Joan Jett in a movie called The Runaways. And I had never heard of The Runaways before. I didn't know who they were, but they're actually like super cool. The Runaways were the first all-girl rock band that originated in California in the 1970s. They were composed of Cherie Currie, Lita Ford, and most famously Joan Jett, who we all know from I Love Rock and Roll. And I fell in love with them. I fell in love with their style. I fell in love with their edge, and I wanted to be just like them. I was going through like this little rebellious phase, which for me, it's basically just like wearing a lot of eyeliner and pretty much doing nothing else other than that and listening to rock and roll music. And I really, really wanted to read this book. Like, I waited for this book. You have no idea how much. And I was also during a time that like I didn't order anything from Amazon because I was like super afraid of giving strangers my address, which is so ridiculous because now I give strangers my address all the time. Not really, but for books I do. And I made my dad go all the way to this bookstore to buy this, and I remember reading it for the first time and loving it. It's really wild. Cherie Currie definitely had a really interesting life, a really interesting couple of teenage years. She and the Runaways became really, really famous really quickly in Japan, but they had a manager that was really not a great guy. His name was Kim Fowley, and he was abusive, not only emotionally and verbally, but also sexually to some of them. And they were just 15 and 14 and 16-year-old girls. So everything that happened to them was really, really difficult to read, but I loved it. It's just a great book because you can't even believe that like someone who was 15 years old had the life that this woman had and went through all the things that she did. So I think that if you're somebody that likes rock and roll, or that, you know, has had kind of a teenage rebellion phase, you can really pick up this memoir and really empathize with her, and also just really enjoy it. I mean, it's a super enjoyable read, and it also has a foreword by Joan Jett, who is, like I said, super famous and one of the most prominent women, not only in rock and roll history, but just in music history. She's done so much for female empowerment. The book also has a lot of pictures, and like my 15-year-old, 16-year-old self totally wanted to be as brooding and badass and misunderstood as this picture. Like, just look at it. It's everything. Cherie Currie also went through a David Bowie phase. David Bowie was her idol when she was young, and when she was on stage, she really tried to be like him. I also had a David Bowie phase. So this book really reminds me of my teenage years, of my time where I was discovering myself, where I didn't really know who I was, but I was really searching for who I was. And one of the great things about this book also is that it taught me that you can be whoever you want to be, and you can explore whatever you want to explore, whether that be different types of lifestyles, different types of haircuts, different types of careers or even different types of sexuality. You know, you can really experiment and experience, and that is okay. And even if things go wrong, Cherie Curry also became a drug addict, and she talks about that in this book. It's okay, because it doesn't mean that your life is over. You can really rise from the ashes like a phoenix and come back. The second book that I want to talk about is Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. This is a book that I have mentioned before here on my channel, but it's a really fantastic book, and I did read it before I started doing Booktube. I remember finishing this book and going to my kitchen with the, like, holding the book, and my grandma was in the kitchen, and she was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I just read the most horrible thing. Life sucks and then you die." And have you ever had that moment where you've read a book and it's fantastic and you're so like emotionally crippled by it, and then in that moment when you're like distraught over it and crying, you meet a non-reader and they're like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Like, that's exactly what happened to me when I read this book. If you don't know what this book is about, it is painful. It is a painful book to read because it is based on a true story. Actually, it's not based on a true story. It follows a true story of a young man who decided to go into the wild. He decided to reject all of society, even his own family, and he decided to live off the land and be one with nature, and things just didn't really work out for him, and he unfortunately passed away. And in this book, his search is being sort of chronicled. In that time that he spent in isolation, he really realized what's truly important about life, and unfortunately his life was cut short, and those things that he learned he couldn't really practice. And it's just a really painful book that's really going to make you think about what's important, how you treat your family, how you move forward in your life, and it's just a great essential read. I think that if you are somebody that has never really picked up a lot of nonfiction before, then you should definitely pick up Into the Wild, because it's going to be kind of a struggle at the beginning because you are going through the search. So there's just a lot of things that are not really interesting, but the payoff at the end is so emotional. Then the next book from my past that I want to talk about is Pretty Little Liars by I don't know who. I actually have my copy of Pretty Little Liars, the first book, but I can't find it. I don't know where it is, but I know that I still have it because I know that I haven't given it away. And I remember reading this when I was like 12 or 13, and it was the first book that I ever read where a girl kisses another girl. Emily Fields, the character played by the beautiful and the lovely Che Mitchell on the television series, kisses her friend who's a girl inside of a photo booth. This was the first time that I had ever read a book where that happened, and I was like, what? You mean this can happen too? I was shook, okay? And yeah. And so I kind of keep that copy, which I don't know where it is, but I kind of keep that copy just because of that, because it was like such a moment for me in literature. And I didn't go on with the series, but I think that the premise of Pretty Little Liars is actually pretty good. You know, you have this group of friends who all have secrets and who have all done things that maybe they wouldn't like other people to know. And their best friend, one of their best friends, is killed the summer before, and then the summer when they all come back for the funeral, they start getting messages from this really creepy anonymous A who somehow knows all of their secrets and threatens them to expose them. So I think that overall, like I said, I didn't continue on with the series, but I thought that the first book was pretty good. The first season of the show is also not bad, but just like Gossip Girl, it just went downhill from there. Then I am going to go way back, like 11 years old back, and I am going to talk about the Private series by Kate Bryan. So I remember really liking this, and I can't even remember what it's about, so I am going to read a little bit of the blurb. And it says, 15-year-old Reed Brennan wins a scholarship to Eston Academy, the golden ticket away from her pill-popping mother and run-of-the-mill suburban life. But when she arrives on the beautiful, tradition-steeped campus of Eton, everyone is just a bit more sophisticated, a bit more gorgeous, and a lot wealthier than she ever thought possible. So she meets the Billing girls. They're the most beautiful, intelligent, and intensely confident girls on campus, and they know it. Reed's about to do whatever it takes to be accepted into their inner circle. So basically this is like Gossip Girl in Connecticut. And I remember picking it up because I was really into preppy, straight-laced kind of characters for a while. So this is where this comes from. I think they kill somebody. I don't know. I've always been really kind of toying with the idea of doing a readathon just for myself, where I read all of these books, because these are not the only ones. Like, I have similar books to this that I picked up when I was like 11, 10, 12, and I would love to read them again. I think I'm actually gonna do this. Like, this book is really short. I think one of these days I'm just gonna pick it up and see what my 12-year-old self, 11-year-old self thought about it and why I liked it so much, and to see if it stands the test of time. I do not think it will. Those were some of the books of my past. There were definitely not all of them. I have quite a lot more embarrassing ones to show, but I think I'll leave those in the dark for now. So yeah, those were some of the books from my past. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!